and we chatted 4 years ago when I was a squeaky freshman in college, and now reunited again. Charles Davis, appreciate the time, sir. How are we?
I'm doing great. Congratulations to you on your new duties. You've earned this, and I'm very, very happy for you. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Charles. I appreciate that. And it must be quite an experience for you being a game analyst for a video game, right? So we have
Yeah.
Madden, you and Brandon Godden, and I love playing the game and hearing you guys interact with each other. What's that experience been like from you? Because it's different from TV, of course.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that, Cam. And thanks for playing first and foremost. We appreciate that very much. But it's a great experience because I get to work with a guy that I respect greatly. I like even more, and Brandon Gaudin. He's an experienced play-by-play guy. Brandon's quick background. At one point, Brandon was the voice of Butler basketball, the Butler Bulldogs, and he was there when they went to the Final Four. Then he went on to Georgia Tech, voice of the Yellow Jackets, and now he's the number 2 guy at Big Ten Network for college football, and also does a lot of Westwood One, both college and pro football and NCAA basketball. So he's a very busy guy, but he's a great play-by-play guy, and he's a great guy to work with. And you're right, it's not like calling a real game because there's no screen, there's no action that we're calling to. We're just talking to each other. We have a scenario, we have a setup, and then we have to execute it. So 3rd and 5, balls on the 20 plus 25 going in. Pass to the right flat, caught by the receiver, tackled by the cornerback, go. It's that type of a thing. So it's a lot of fun to do in terms of being with him, being with the crew that we have, because we got a great group of people around us, great support people. But there's times when your brain's going to get exercised a little bit. Like, didn't we do 3rd and 5 like 15 times in a row? Yeah, but we got a few more to do. And that's just kind of how it works. And truthfully, look, I can lament it every now and then. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Absolutely. I remember playing, and sometimes way back in the early Madden days, wishing for more variety in the commentary, and now you guys are doing it on seemingly a weekly basis, which is just absolutely fantastic. And Charles, of course, in reality, you were called the Falcons versus Bears game, and that one was just an absolute roller coaster. I mean, 4 chances at the end of that one for the Bears to win it. What was going through your mind as you were calling that one? I mean, that was a crazy finish.
It was a crazy finish, but I think what was going through my mind, if I can recollect, number one, this is great that the Bears are so competitive because they really struggled. They were 3-13 the year before, and I thought they would be improved. But here they were taking the defending NFC champs at least to the limit, if not going to beat them. So that was number one. Number two, I was thinking, now here are the Falcons, the collapse at the Super Bowl, 28-3, had the whole offseason to hear about it. Kept talking about the steps they've taken to correct that and get past it. And if Chicago scores and kicks the extra point, they're going to be facing a whole nother week of intensified questioning about this team, questioning about holding a fourth quarter lead. And it's not just a normal week. They're going to open their new stadium for real. It's the official opening. The Green Bay Packers are coming to town. And, oh, yeah, it's Sunday Night Football, Al, Chris, and Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a lot to deal with. And for them, I think being able to get out of there with a win, they didn't care if it's pretty ugly or whatever, but to be able to get out there and hold on at the end and not give up that lead, I think that will go a longer way towards curing what happened last year than even all the stuff they did in the offseason where they met with each other and pretty much got on a couch and talked it out. I think this was a big deal for them.
It certainly was a test for the Falcons after that Super Bowl. It was nice to see them get that win there and kind of battle through adversity. And one little nugget from that game, Charles, is, of course, Tariq Cohen. And he's a popular name now among fantasy players, certainly on the waiver wire, etc. What were your thoughts in watching Cohen play in that game? Really shifty, quick guy, and almost overshadowed Jordan Howard.
Yeah, it was fun for me because I got a tip on him in college. My father coached a guy who played football in North Carolina A&T. Mm-hmm. And he called me last year and said, hey, we got an Aggie who can play, and told me about him and what have you. So I started to follow him and started to watch him. And then to watch what he did throughout his career there. And, of course, everybody wants to say, well, it's 1AA football. It's historically black college football. It's not the same level. He's too small at 5'6", blah, blah, blah. But the more I watched him, more intrigued I became. National College Player of the Year in black college football. I watched him against Kent State. Now, you and I both know Kent State's no juggernaut, right?
Sure.
But still, better and the best team that A&T was going to play all year. I'm not sure Kent State tackled him that night. He kept them in that game and took them to overtime against Kent State at Kent. And it was a big deal watching it. And more I watched that tape, more I kept saying, this guy can play in the league. He's got a chance. And what I saw on Sunday, I didn't want to get into too much hyperbole. I don't want to put too much on the kid. But I did see elements of Darren Sproles in him because he does have that strength. Even though he's a little guy, he's not little and wiry. He's little and compact and strong. And Sproles is the same way.
You mentioned hyperbole, and sometimes that can coincide with New England fan bases, Charles. We had Courtney Cox of Nesson on the program earlier talking about that loss against Kansas City. I want to get your thoughts on that game. I mean, think about it. You have the celebrations, Goodell, the trophies, Gillette Stadium, opening night, prime time, and they didn't play very well. Is this more just kind of getting a little distracted, a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover, or do you have long-term concerns for the Patriots in the AFC?
I don't have long-term yet. This is going to have to be proven over time. Mm-hmm. The last time I think we were kind of watching this was when Kansas City whacked them in 2014. You remember that? When Kansas City put it on them? And what was the press conference? The famous press conference quote? We're on to Cincinnati. We had that season end for New England, a Super Bowl championship. So I never get overly like, oh, God, New England, got to bench Tom Brady. He's 40 years old. It's time for Garoppolo. Oh, my God, the defense is terrible. No. Let's see how it goes. Call me later if we got a 3-game losing streak or something. Then we'll talk a little bit more about that. But, yeah, listen, Kansas City doesn't go in and play intimidating against anyone. And Andy Reid, for whatever reason, seems to take extra relish into dealing with Bill Belichick. Their games are always close, tight. Andy does a nice job. They put 42 points on them. The last time New England had something like that happen, Kansas City put 41 on them in 2014. Good game plan, great execution, and the emergence of Kareem Hunt, another little running back who absolutely can, this one out of Toledo.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're watching him right now, of course, for that Chiefs versus Eagles game that I'll ask you about in a couple seconds here. But I want to first go to the NFC. I'm having a hard time picking a favorite right now, Charles. I mean, Seattle wasn't good against Green Bay. Arizona was not good at all against Detroit. They lost David Johnson for a couple months. And then you have the Cowboys here. I mean, a popular regression pick, if you will, perhaps a team that wouldn't do as good this year as they were last year. Are they the favorite in the NFC right now in your eyes?
I wouldn't take anyone that you had as a favorite before and dismiss them at this point. I wouldn't take Seattle off of that list. Going to Green Bay, as you know, difficult task. Sure. They were on the back end of a really bad call early off of that touchdown, where they called the block in the back against Aaron Rodgers that I'm not sure a feather duster had more effect on him on that play. So many different things that go into it. I'm not being an apologist for Seattle. But again, one game, I don't kick them to the curb. Arizona, a little more problematic because you weren't quite sure what you were going to get out of them. They almost felt like they talked Carson Palmer into coming back, and he didn't play well opening day. Are there long-term ramifications there? We'll see. I think that looking at it as a whole, Dallas, as you mentioned, was a popular pick, but having Zeke Elliott and we expect him to play all year long now, that's a big deal for them because he helps cover a lot of things that gave them a problem on defense by his ability to control the game by running the football. So anyone you had before, I wouldn't take them out of it. Arizona I'd have a little more concern with. I think I'd keep a strong eye on Carolina to make a bounce back this year and press Atlanta in the NFC South. And Tampa Bay, of course, is a very trendy pick to jump up there. They've got an opportunity. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch and see how it develops. I'm just telling you, the NFC East, you can darn near just shake up the bag, throw one up in the air, and that might be your champion. It's just kind of how it works in that division. That's going to be a really, really fun one to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly could be the case with the NFC South as well. A lot of good teams in that division going forward, and it should be a fun one to follow as well. Charles, let's talk about the Chiefs versus Eagles this week, and it's going to be at Arrowhead. Both teams coming off big wins against some big-time opponents. Eagles, a division rival. The Chiefs, of course, the New England Patriots, reigning Super Bowl champions. And one thing you noted recently is the front seven play from the Chiefs and the Eagles. And I think, I see a lot of speed out of those two front sevens. When you're watching this tape here, what are you seeing out of those two defenses?
Well, I think you identified the number one thing. They can both run. I agree with your eyes on that one. The second part, though, is, and especially I'm looking at Kansas City because they haven't been known as a very stout team. They gave up a lot of yards running the ball last year. They were down near, 25, 26 in run defense. Remember, Derek Johnson didn't play most of a lot of the year because of an Achilles injury. Dontari Poe had a bad back. All of those things that go into it. But you take this game one just as a sample. Kansas City stopped New England twice on 4th and 1s running the ball inside. That's got to give them great confidence going forward. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden they are the great wall, but it also doesn't mean now that you can just stand up and just knock them aside like people were getting used to doing. Because Kansas City was predicated on just taking the ball away from you. They'd bend a little, and then they'd knock it free and take it the other way. Or they'd get a key sack from a Justin Houston or a D Ford, or Tom Bahali, who's on PUP now. Flip it over to Philadelphia. It's always about the front four if Jim Schwartz is coordinating your defense. They have to get the pressure because he's not a big blitz guy. Well, Brandon Graham off of the edge. I thought that the pickup of Tim Jernigan was huge to be able to come inside and give them gut pressure. I think that, Fletcher Cox is in full form right now. So they're getting that pressure off the edge. The rookie Derek Barnett, not needed at this point to provide that pressure, but I expect him to do so before the season is out. And Vinny Curry gets tired of being overlooked. So that front group, I thought, played really well, which allowed Jordan Hicks at linebacker, Michael Kendricks at linebacker, Nigel Bradham at linebacker to really roam free. Bradham should have had a pick on the first series of the game. I mean, great play, just didn't come down with it. But they had a nice ball game against Washington because Washington ran all over them last year in the run game. This year, they shut that down, and if they can continue to play that type of run defense, then they get to unleash their pass rush, which I expect to be very good.
Absolutely. Philadelphia, a sneaky team in that division. And looking at the quarterbacks here, Alex Smith. Look, Charles, the guy sometimes can be a punchline, and I feel bad for him sometimes with the whole game manager type deal. But let's face facts. In national TV, in Gillette Stadium, the guy balled out. 4 touchdown passes, threw for over 300 yards in that one. Does this mean that Alex Smith is ready to open up the playbook a little bit? Because, the theory is that with Patrick Mahomes waiting in the wings, if you will, there's a little bit of a fire underneath Alex Smith's butt to all right, let's go. Let's fire downfield.
Well, I think that was I don't know if it was unintended or intended, but that's a consequence of drafting Patrick Mahomes. Because I think the genesis, or let me rephrase that, Cam. The final straw, I believe, in Kansas City was losing the playoff game to Pittsburgh last year in the manner that they lost. Defense only gave up 6 field goals. Okay, they never got into the end zone. Yet Kansas City didn't have enough firepower to take the shot and get it done. And I believe that's what led them to say, guess what? Maybe we better go get a guy who'll do that. And we know that Mahomes has that slinger in him. So here you go. Here's your challenge. And from all accounts I've gotten, Alex Smith called and welcomed Patrick Mahomes to Kansas City, handled it like a pro, and went right to work and took over that team again. And has been as aggressive from the offseason on as they've ever seen, and it manifested itself. Now, part of that, too, is look at the weapons he has to throw to. Tyreek Hill downfield now. Okay, can make a play. Chris Conley can make a play downfield. Albert Wilson can run, the kid out of Georgia State. Travis Kelce, that's a big-time tight end now. He can handle all the intermediate stuff and turn it into bigger plays. And, of course, Kareem Hunt now. That pass he threw down the middle to Hunt looked like a wide receiver. Right. So, or at least a good slot back. So now he has those weapons. He's kind of taken the governor off of the golf cart, and he turned it loose with great success. Let's see if he keeps pressing it that way, because if so, Kansas City's going to be a really tough out for people, and Alex Smith will have a monster career year.
Fun little question for you here, Charles, as we have the highlights of you back in the day playing for the Vols, a fantastic defensive back in your own right, and we have it on screen here on air. I want to ask you about your glory days playing in college and just how that experience was for you. And let me ask you this. Were you a hard hitter? Were you a ball hawker? Blended the two? Let me know what your thoughts are on that.
I think you get varied answers along the way. I was a good tackler, Cam, but I was not an absolute killer in the middle. I wasn't the guy that if you came across the middle, that was the end of the day for you. But I was going to put you on the ground. Okay, so that's just how that worked. I did pretty well. I think I had 13 interceptions in my career. When I left Tennessee, I think I was 5th all time. I think I've gone down a little bit since that time. 5th all time for Tennessee in terms of interceptions. But I was dependable. I was a smart guy. I got people lined up. And 2 of the years I played at Tennessee, I think I led the team in number of snaps. So I was on the field for special teams as well, and I take great pride in that. I had a great time played with some fantastic people. I played with guys like Reggie White, Willie Galt. I mean, when you start to throw out some of the names, when I look up, Tim McGee, who had a great career in the NFL as a wide receiver, Alvin Harper.
Hmm.
I was a pretty fortunate guy. I played with some fantastic people, and the general manager of the Oakland Raiders and the director of player personnel from the Oakland Raiders were teammates of mine as well, Reggie McKenzie and Joey Clinkscales, who also, both of them played in the NFL for a time, and Reggie had a pretty nice career with the Raiders. So, yeah, lucky, happy, proud to be involved, proud to have been a part of it. Was I the greatest player there ever? No. Was I the worst player there ever? No. Happy to be part of it. Happy to be right where I am and be a part of that. Wear that orange jersey. That was fun.
Well, I'm always happy to have you on the program, Charles. Charles Davis, ladies and gentlemen, NFL on Fox color analyst and the voice of Madden 18 out in stores now. Charles, really appreciate the time. You're always very gracious, and all the best to you, sir.
Cam, continued best wishes to you. You're doing it the way it's supposed to be done. You're working for it. Happy for you, and you take care.
All right, there you have it. Charles Davis here on the program on the Cam Rogers Show. Always a fantastic interview.